Hello and welcome back to my YouTube channel, where today we are taking a look at the end of year best ofs albums edition. So previously we looked at the EPs, and there was kind of a hard time picking EPs of the year, mostly because I had so little to work with. I feel like 2025 was the year of the album, even though it felt like a slow year for music. It was the year of the album, not the year of the EP. So I had a hard time picking EP, like top 5 EPs of the year, because I had so little to choose from. Whereas with my top 5 albums of the year, I had the much other side of the spectrum, where I had too much to choose from and I was spoiled for choice. So there is a few more honourable mentions on here than normal, I believe, mainly because there were so many that I wanted to put in here, but I didn't feel like it would make sense to do like a top 10 because I've done a top 5. So there's more honourable mentions than normal, I think. Definitely more honourable mentions than EPs of the year. So, looking at placement, how did I determine this? So a lot of it, again, same with EPs, was how much I played it. Like singles and the full album, how often did I listen to something off of this or the full project? So that is one of the major components. Other components for me were the overall listening experience, how much I enjoyed listening to the album from start to finish, because most of these, if not all of these, I have done at least once, cover to cover. Another contributing factor for me would be, if I was to do a review, what score would I have given them? So most of these haven't had their full album review and probably will be looking to be reviewed in 2026, along with any 2026 releases that I get uber excited for and boost up there. So those are kind of my determining factors, as well as there is no repeats on here. So like I couldn't have 2 albums from the same artist, but I technically do have one which is a solo project from an artist that is part of a group, and both of those feature on here, so that is okay. With that out of the way, let us move on to the honourable mentions. So first honourable mention is Scrim with their EP, their album Fuck Me, Via Cruciatus. This had a lot of playtime and was a very solid overall listening experience for me, with one of their songs, Axeman of New Orleans, I believe it was, getting possibly one of the most playtimes off of this as a single. There was another one which was, I can't remember the name of the song, but that's had a lot of play on YouTube more so than Amazon for some reason. I'm not sure why, but that's just how it is. And it was a really solid album, just quite long, which isn't a bad thing, honestly. But I feel like the only reason it didn't crack the top 5 for me was because it kind of fell down in ranking more so than others. And by that I mean, like, early on when it came out, I found myself listening to it more than I did going through the year, if that makes sense. So like, as it's December the 12th whilst I'm recording this, only about 2 songs are still in current frequent rotation, whereas their other projects have more in rotation frequently. So yeah. Moving on to the next honourable mention, this is one that probably several people would have expected to be in my top 5 when it was announced, and this is Dayseeker, Creature in the Black Night. Now, I really like Dayseeker, but I found this album to be mildly disappointing. The song Creature in the Black Night is really good. The lead single off of the album had me really hyped and is probably the best song on the album, I think. Yeah, I'd say so. And it just kind of felt weaker than their previous albums. So I was mildly let down, and thusly it makes it into the honourable mentions. This next album is one that easily could have been in my top 5, and it probably should be, but I've only recently started listening to it more after I've locked in the top 5. So, because as with the EPs, I gave myself a specific date that everything had to be solidified by, which was the 1st of December. And it's only after the 1st of December that a lot of the stuff from this album has started making it into my playlists a little bit more, annoyingly. And this is the Acacia Strain with their 2025 album, You Are Safe From God Here. Very solid album, very great, very enjoyable, as is most of their stuff that they put out. It was just an unfortunate timing that kind of stopped it from ranking high or ranking in the top 5. Next up is a project that I enjoyed, but it actually came out much later into 2025, so that's why it's on the honourable mentions, is Killstreak with their album The Cursed. Gaming metal, like songs about fucking Zelda and all sorts of other nerdy culture stuff in a death metal format. What's not to love? It is a solid album. The only reason it didn't make the top 5 is because it came out really late into the year. Next up is Fit for a King with their album Lonely God. Again, this is one that 2 or 3 songs have had the most playtime. There was Monolith, I can't think of the other one, and there was the one song with Chris Motionless. Just 1 second, I'm just Googling. That was it. Shelter, Monolith, and Witness the End. Those were like the 3 that had the most playtime. And it was a solid album from start to finish, but those 3 were the strongest songs on the album, in my opinion, when I listened to them front to back. But I would hedge my bets to say it is one of Fit for a King's best albums. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and it just got beaten out of the top 5 by some better projects for me. The last 2 honourable mentions here are both projects that, again, people knowing me would probably expect to be in my top 5. With Architects, The Sky and Everything Between, or All Between, I can't remember the actual title, I think I've written it wrong. Where, again, it had some great singles and some solid songs, but none of them really penetrated my playlist significantly enough to make the top 5. I've only listened to it from cover to cover maybe once whilst playing games with friends, and it was a good album compared to their previous album or 2 that they've put out, but it just fell short of what I was looking for this year. And the last honourable mention, this one definitely I thought would be in my top 5, but it isn't. And this is Sleep Token with Even in Arcadia. Now, did I love the album? Yes. Did I enjoy every song on the album? Not particularly. Did the songs that I not like grow on me over time? Yes, you could say so. What were some standouts for me? Honestly, the title track Even in Arcadia, Gethsemane, or Gethsemane, however you fucking say it. Damocles I really enjoyed. Caramel had the most playtime, but it's not my favourite song on the album. I also thoroughly liked Provider and Dangerous as well. But I just feel like compared to previous Sleep Token albums, it wasn't the strongest. It had a lot of real life aspects to the songs, which makes sense, seeing as they've been dealing with privacy invasion and doxing and all sorts of stuff, where he's kind of like addressed that in song format, whilst also trying to keep the Sleep Token world lore going. And I liked the way that they kind of like cryptically teased the album. They had like the cryptic like teasers for how they were going to announce where they were going to be doing their stadium tours and stuff, and their stage setups and everything have been magnificent this year. And I do love the album, don't get me wrong. I just felt like I probably didn't enjoy it as much as I did This Place Will Become Your Tomb, Sundowning, or other albums of theirs. So, yeah. This probably leaves you asking, what the fuck is in your top 5? And we are about to dive into that. Taking the 5th spot, and I think is one of 2, maybe 3 UK artists on this album's chart. My English is really falling off a hill here right now. We are talking about the band Malevolence with Where Only the Truth Is Spoken. Now, going into 2025, I didn't listen to much Malevolence. I'd heard the name, I'd seen them feature on stuff, this and that. Like, I wasn't that well up to Malevolence and what they were. But 2025 was, for me, a big year of listening to Malevolence's discography, going back to their older albums before this album dropped, fucking loving a lot of those, and then this dropped, and my god, have I listened to a lot of this. So much. From phenomenal vocals, to just catchy songs, to just such enjoyable listening experience, with some standouts being If It's All the Same to You, which is one of my favourite songs of theirs, So Help Me God being another fucking banger. You know, you had what else was there on that album? Salt the Wound, that was another fucking banger. Yeah, it's just so many phenomenal songs, and again, they blew my expectations for this album out of the water, and I would say that this is just another sign that the UK artists are killing that shit right now. Between them, Architects, and another artist that is on here, which actually takes the 4th spot, with that being the lads in Bury Tomorrow with their album Will You Haunt Me With the Same Patience. And my god, was this a fucking album. I didn't know going into it what to expect, but by the time I listened to it from cover to cover, I loved almost every song. Some standouts for me were Yokai, What If I Burn, Found No Throne, Silence Isn't Helping Us, and probably Villain Arc, I'd say were my top like 4 or 5 songs off of this album. It's 11 songs, I think it runs for like 42 minutes, maybe 43. And honestly, it received very good ratings from everyone. I think like Kerrang gave it a 4 out of 5. Louder gave it like 4 out of 5. It was very well received, and it is possibly one of their most solid records to date. I fucking loved it, and I couldn't speak higher of it. Moving on to third place, we have one that I am sure people would expect to be on here. This is Signs of the Swarm with To Rid Myself of Truth. Now, this did kind of fall in and out of my top 5 at first. It was kind of like between this and Architects for a little while, and then I listened to this a few more times fully through, and I was like, yeah, this has to be in there because it was just so good. I fucking loved most of the songs on this album. Like, it's just a fast-paced, full-throttle, gnarly, stereotypical Signs of the Swarm album. Blast beats, heavy vocals. There's like some weird, like almost like rap influences, I think, in one song. But it once again just kind of went to show what these guys are good at, and the fact that they are fucking good at what they do. So, yeah, well done to them. In second place, this was my number 1 album for a while, but then got overtaken. And this is Souled Soul with their album Just Like That, I Disappear. This album came out around September, I think. And it's like 10 songs long, but they're like really fairly long songs. You've got like 6 minutes, 5 minutes, 5 minutes, 8, nearly 9 minutes. And it's a listening experience. Honestly, the lyrics are dark, they're heavy, the vocals are really solid, the artwork for the album I enjoyed. I thought it was kind of quirky, kind of cool. They're like these red ghosts. Some of my favourite songs were You'll Find Me There Where Your Heart Grows Darkest. Honestly, I'm going to need to try and... some of these names are like really fucking long. One of my other favourite songs was To Spit Contempt on the Tail of Every Uttered Word. You know. And then I would also say probably up there as well with that was When You Finally Realise How Small You Are, which was the outro to the album. And lastly, one of my favourites was The Stranger in the Red Suit and the Many Things He Promised Me. All of these were standout songs. It was a fucking great album, and I highly recommend listening to it. It just missed out on number 1 for me, and the only reason it lost the number 1 spot is because number 1, I had much more listening time this year than that album. That is solely the difference, is how much I listened to the 2 albums. So, without further ado, without fucking around, what was my number 1 album of the year? Well, one half of this band had an honourable mention in the EPs of the year with Duck Boy. The other half had an honourable mention here with Scrim. And number 1 album of the year for me personally was Suicide Boys with Thy Kingdom Come. And oh my god, Thy Kingdom Come was honestly, from cover to cover, a fucking phenomenal album. I did not hate a single song on this album. I don't actually know my entire listening time, but it was several hundred hours worth just for this album alone. They have been in my top 5, if not my top 2 artists of the month consistently. They were my number 1 artist of the year for my Amazon and my YouTube Wrapped. And I had high hopes for this album when it was announced, and it met every single expectation I had and more. I could not be happier with how this album turned out as a fan of Suicide Boys. This was just a really great showcase for both Scrim and Ruby, and I genuinely think 2025 for me was the year of Suicide Boys. They smashed everything. They took my top artists, they took my top album, they both had a spot in album of the year and, you know, EP of the year. It was a great year for those guys. So a round of applause for the Suicide Boys for album of the year. I'm sure many people would disagree with my choices, but again, this is all based on my personal taste, my listening time with them and stuff like that. And I'm sure next year will be completely different. So, that being said, this will probably be the last video for 2025. So, remember to stay safe out there, my friends, and have yourselves a nice Christmas and New Year. Make sure you stay safe over these festive times. I will see you guys all in 2026. Goodbye.